but another song exists.
I have lost my respect.
I'm surprised you still had any.
Speaking of gaining respect.
Oh, that's a segue.
Yeah, okay.
Speaking of gaining respect, X7 are looking for that one as they need to get some distance away from Vanir.
I'll go for your job.
Which is the last game of the day, man. That was a curveball, but I took it anyway. This is a high-stakes game. We have Vanir, 1 game away from X7. If they get this one, they jump into 6th place, which means they are looking for the playoffs. If X7 loses this one, we're looking at the Kings from Spring Split getting away from playoffs. That is not a world that I was expecting to live in by Summer Split.
Well, and it's gone so poorly in summer so far. They have started ringing in changes. MC's gone, Viking is in, and that is a huge change. Viking was one of, I mean, we've talked about maybe someone like Dan being an iconic player in summer. Viking was one of those iconic players in spring. This guy was the person leading the charge on Dusty. Now he's come back on a different roster, one which is trying to regain some of their lost form, and they need to do it quick. A loss here is disastrous for our reigning champions.
What was Haru known for? Getting the early ganks, playing for the mid lane. What is Viking known for? Being aggressive. Brought in the Rek'Sai in the Spring Split and did demolish completely. Do you think this is what X7 needs? An aggressive jungler looking to kill and style on those kids?
I feel like in the advent of Haru leaving, obviously Viking is, he's got big boots to fill, but I feel like he can at least get a few toes in the shoe. Whereas I think MC was just a completely different style of jungler that was never going to facilitate in the same style. I feel like it broke the kind of the rhythm, it broke the topic of X7, and I feel like X7 now have a theme back that I'm hoping to see them return to previous form.
I enjoyed this.
Yeah.
Yeah, you can talk. This is an interesting one, and also I would like to look into Vanir for Merbs as well. On one side we have Attila, a beast, also going for the kill. So I don't know if Viking plays for Attila, this could be a bloodbath. But for Merbs, he's someone that is showcasing himself from Division 2 to Division 1, and he's playing really well.
He is, and you know, for a player to make that transition from Div 2 to Div 1, it's not always an easy one. We've seen plenty of other players have a rocky start with that. I mean, some of the players across, say, from Singularity, they've been kind of hanging around that area, and they haven't quite made it click. And you look at someone like Soften Camera, similar sort of scenario where they were playing towards that kind of level before, and they've had some times to make some adjustments. Merbs, I feel like, has had the more smooth transition out of any of our Div 1s coming in. Do also feel like AD carry is the most easy role to be facilitated for, so it makes it very clear what your role is and just do business as usual. But even with that, Merbs has overperformed what I expected of him.
Yeah, I completely agree. I think Merbs has been a player, his friends must call him Henry at this point because he's been an absolute hoover, an absolute vacuum. Just takes up so many resources, takes up so many CS. He's able to lane in a way that I feel like it pairs off quite nicely against Attila, because Attila and Kasing, to me, Attila is one of the best team fighters in the whole of ERL, but I think the 2v2 in terms of the laning phase isn't that strong. And in comparison, Merb's very consistent. I feel like if he's able to just play the long game and they don't let X7 get the game the way they want to, and Viking doesn't have too much of a say on it, we could see a Vanir bot lane that come out with some advantages.
There you go, as we jump into the Champion Select for the last game of the day. Vanir versus X7. It's the fight for the last place. You actually got it for the last place on the playoffs run. We still have a few matches. I think it's 5 matches for each team, because this is the last.
18 matches total. It's a double round robin between 10 teams, so 9 on each side of it, because you play each other team, not including yourself. So that includes 9 when there's 10.
Still a big window for any team to go into that last spot for playoffs, but this is a tough one for X7. Right now, it's going to be the Swain being banned in the first one. Seraphine is going to follow right up. Now, do you ban for the Viking? Because you haven't seen him play on Summer Split, so you don't know what he's playing unless you go for this solo queue.
So we looked back towards spring. What was Viking playing? A lot of Hecarim, a lot of Rek'Sai, and there were some other early aggressive junglers in there too. But particularly those two of the champions, that's like, wow, they're really good. The Rek'Sai out of meta. Who cares? You banned it away from him. Now, is that going to be a point now where you just say, well, whatever? You have to take a bit of a risk at this point, because you know it is again something that we keep borrowing from Goldborg in terms of, do you threaten an overloaded draft? Would you ban too many oddball picks and then leave open lots of power picks, which then overloads the first 3 picks and say, well, there's too many power picks open, what do we pick?
I think further to what you were saying, I mean, Turt's true to his sort of role on the team. You kind of do know what he's going to play, even the fact that you haven't seen him in summer. He has a role on this team, which I think is very clear. He needs to facilitate mid lane, so we're going to see him on champions like the Volley Bear. We're going to see him on these things that can get into the mid lane, which is why we've seen that ban come out. If that jungle pool gets pinched beyond R3, I feel like X7 are going to have some problems, but they want to get these priority picks out in response. It's kind of the immediate battle they have to face.
I was looking into this pick, like the Wukong, even though he was nerfed, Diamond Prox told us he's still a good pick, and it's aggressive as well.
Yeah, and so I was chatting with Torok. This was actually on the last patch, but it still kind of holds true. The thing about Wukong that Torok was saying, and I very much agree with this, is that he functions into everything you put into him, right? And it's just something that can really just still perform the same role. Can you do that into a Vi?
Locked in.
Now, we have seen one Vi in the NLC before, and that was in the game that Nariki played. And I'm trying to remember if that was actually against JDX.
It's a pick that Torok kind of pioneered, though, didn't he? When he put it back the previous split before. I remember everyone thought he was mad, but it's something we're starting to see more and more. I think we've even seen NLC once or twice, haven't we?
Yeah, we have. And the thing about Vi is that this actually, the really enduring memories I have of Vi. Look at this guy getting excited over his hobbers.
He's like a puppy.
But, I mean, Vanir with the team which played it last split, I wouldn't put it past him, of course. That was Quicksilver back then, playing down in support role. We still remember and honor that name. But
never forget
the thing about the Vi, my enduring memories of Vi are actually back to Season 3. And the identity has stayed very, very similar, where if you play Vi with a very aggressive mid laner that has target access to follow you up, someone dies. Now, if you can get a very defensive mid laner on the other side of that and pick something which can be very self-peely, like Isaiah, it removes value from it, though. So already, something which you were talking about, which has been a very big theme of today, you see the theme of the draft. You see the Vi going towards a key carry, and you pick an Isaiah and say, nope.
And they're not going to be playing for the bot lane. We see the Ezreal, you know, is going to be on the low budget itemization. This is for Tempt.
The Prey Gorilla bot lane, the Ezreal Tom Kench.
So it's going to be for Temp. We still need to see what sort of champion is going to bring in as well. On the other side, you have a safety net for the Vi gank. But the rest of the lines, what else can you bring to save yourself from that engage from Arcane?
I'm not really sure what you're gonna. I'm not sure what kind of direction the X7 really want to go in at this point. I feel like you've got safety from the Tom Kench, you've got engage. You probably want to. I'd imagine, unless I'm misunderstanding the way the Vi is meant to work, you want to have something that can kind of follow up with the engage, no? So presumably. You'd be wanting to look for something like a Camille top lane, maybe. I feel like it's a bit difficult to go for it blind. Maybe a Camille R5, safe blind mid.
Yeah, I think something like a Camille potentially works just as a dive buddy. I think in terms of more stable picks, I am actually looking towards something like an Ahri, but then again, I always would. But
I was thinking about it, and I'm not a main, so yeah.
Yeah, and you know when he's thinking about it, it's really serious at that point. But you know, you're thinking of champions which can cut across the screen with you. I think you probably need a secondary form of engage. If that is going to come out from something like a Camille, that's one thing. But you can have that R5 to go towards that. We actually haven't seen Chasey go towards too many full carry tops. He's often been just on Sejuani duty, and he will do fine in those duties.
He's been on Snow Patrol. He's been chasing cars.
Jesus Christ.
He never stops.
I got that one. Oh, man. Good one. Yeah, he got me.
Oh, he got you. He actually got you. It stopped your thing. Yeah.
But either way, you know, he's going to have to wait a little bit until that red 5 potentially to get that counter pick. The question is, who are you... The thing about X7 is typically you've put more resources into Tempt's matchup than you have into Chase's. Do you blind pick something he's been a bit more confident on something like an Ornn, something like a Civil Drawn, and you say, well, okay, he'll survive. He's a challenger's career top laner coming in here. But for once, we might actually see the earlier pick and no blind pick used for Tempt. It's going to be that matchup favored for top lane. I mean,
this is Ludens.
Yeah, and I mean, personally, I think when you have a champion which is facilitating for you, Ahri also doesn't need to be set up. You have her be damaged. Build not Everfrost. Build like full Magic Fen and stuff. It really works. And in this game, it's not going to happen, but I want you to know that I've said it.
Jake, on the other side, come on.
Yeah, I think good shout there from Mimira to kind of spot the Ahri blind too. I think in response, you're going to try and see something that can kind of consolidate and punish it. I think one of the things we talked about earlier in the broadcast is sort of how traditional counters like Veigar doesn't necessarily see as traditional lane counters. But Silas, I feel like if they do actually eventually lock this in, how does it do into an Ahri?
So
it is locked in.
So a couple things about it. So one, you can be an early Zhonya's builder, very good against Vi, because Zhonya's the one thing which makes Vi go, oh well, I'm now. It doesn't actually stop her ult like completely. If you stop it right next to you, she's just like come right into your team. The ult's on cooldown, and you're not even knocked up. So lots of ways you can bait that in, and that obviously becomes very dangerous. The other thing about Silas, obviously, you can steal the Ahri ultimate. Worth knowing, you don't steal the resets because that's tied to Ahri's passive, and there are some weird side examples. Say, for instance, with something like, I don't know, like like a Fiora, you technically steal the Fiora's passive at the same time because the ult doesn't function without it. You don't actually steal the resets from Ahri's ult when you are Silas into that champion. So with the Wukong Silas into Ahri Vi, very different ways that can be played. I would imagine that Vanir are going to be on the back foot for that for a little while, and that's kind of important for X7 because it means they actually have an area of the map they can play around, which is that top side, and Jace will benefit from that. If you win in that 2v2 early, then you can start supporting the Jace, which is a little more fragile than it has been in previous metas.
Yeah, for me, I just want to just reiterate in terms of the top side, I think there's going to be explosions this game. That's one of my favorite matchups in the entire game, Jace versus Gnar. And who better to have piling the Jace than Chasey in our league? I feel like just whilst he's not having like the exponential impact we'd expect out of a Korean Challengers top coming into the league, mechanically and in lane wise,
he's before and well.
Yeah, exactly.
Last game of the day. Tell me, who's going to take it?
I feel like it. You know what? I'm going to give it to Vanir. I think so. I was thinking about X7, I was thinking, oh, explosive topside. The last time they had an explosive topside, they looked so discoordinated, things fell apart for them. Can Viking be the miracle cure? It's a large hill to climb up with. I'm giving it to Vanir. I think they even up the score at 6 and 7.
Okay, hit me.
Listen, I'm just going to say I'm a play-by-play lampooning as an analyst today, so I'm just going to do some narrative here. It's the Vikings from the Isle of Man versus the Vikings of Scandinavia. Who's going to take it? I'll let you decide, audience.
Well, that's a good segue as we throw it to the casters for the last game of the day of day 13. Initialized trouble. What do you think?
Vi King. Get it? Because he's playing. Stop rebelling. It was good. It was good. It was good. Come back. You guys have been hitting me.
Okay, we're allowed to do it. You're not. That's the way.
You guys have been hitting me for 2 seasons with the shittiest pants ever. And I say one, and you leave.
There was a lot of like feelings that were outpoured there by trouble. Onto the Rift we go for our final game of the day. Vikings in various forms abound on the Rift, and we would be remiss if we didn't talk about that change for X7 in the jungle. MC is gone, Viking is in, and Viking was a guy who really stepped up towards the end of last split with Dusty, took them alongside FGG, honestly, on a very impressive journey through playoffs to end in 3rd.
Yeah, and I think the issue, I believe, that was having MC in the roster was he came through a team where he was the main carry in Riddle. He was playing the AP carries, he was facilitated for. His job was to carry the team to victory. Viking's job in Dusty was to guide the team to victory. It wasn't necessarily always through him. Yes, he would play his Rek'Sai. Yes, he would play his Jarvan, but it wasn't always him that would carry the team. He would lead the team to that 3rd place. And I feel like what X7 was really missing was that leadership, was that mid-jungle duo to actually gel very well together. Now, of course, there could be some communication issues because Chasey and Tempt are both Korean, so the communication
Bit different.
Could not have been flowing that easily. But the same issue could happen with Viking as well, right? This is why this is our first official game with Viking in X7, and we need to see how this is going to pan out. Because you honestly really like the Vi. I'm on the fence because I'm like, early game, you can make a lot of things happen, right? You've got the Ahri with the Vi, you've got Chase in the top lane who wants to snowball the Jace, so maybe you can play towards the top side of the map really easy for level 6.
I mean, what I'll say is, it's a very Viking champion. It's not dissimilar to something like a Rek'Sai where you can dive, be the AD, hit level 6 and dive even harder. Not the easiest champion necessarily to do the diving into, of course, because Merbs can just press R. Silas can build Zhonya's pretty early, as Naimara mentioned on the desk, and that can really stymie whatever I want to do. So, do see how Viking plays it, even if I do think it's proactive, it's aggressive, you can make plays on it, and at least from what we saw in spring, and of course the meta's changed around, fits his playstyle.
Also, I feel like X7 are a little bit squishy. You've got the Jace, who's very squishy. I'm assuming this Vanir is not going to go, of course, full tank. You're probably going to look for something like the Sandra or Trinity Force to spice up your Mythic in the early. And then you've got, of course, the Ezreal and the Ari, who are also pretty squishy, and then you've got Tamkens, fair enough. But if we look towards Vanir, you said it is Merb's Xayah. It is a champion that scales really well into the late game. Erixen on the Sylas, another champion that scales really well into the late game. You've got a bunch of ultimate to play around with, meaning just two, pretty much the Ari ultimate or the Vi ultimate. So you're either pinning people down or chasing people around. Krayox on his first gank, off the game.
Managed to get the wraparound, and Chasey now left in a very difficult position. Vi's just not there. There is the phase rush though, and Chasey might be able to try and get out of this. Still got the flash, may need to burn it. Flashing away now, flash forward for Dreeple, but he gets knocked away by the Q from Vi. And Viking will keep his top laner alive, but now will Viking have to flash in turn? He will. It'll be 2 flashes for 1, but X7 remain alive off a very clean wraparound from Krayox.
And this is Vanir's identity. Krayox being aggressive in the very early game. We mentioned
Skipped
your ability path. Krayox was doing everything for the team. On the listen, he was mid, top, jungle. Now he's going towards the mid lane together with Zaremba.
Zaremba just out of range with that ground entrance, but a nice combined attempt there from Krayox, and Zaremba collapsing from both sides of mid lane. But Krayox
we're going top again.
Yep, skips a camp, managed to get a little bit of a cheat on the timing towards the top lane, punishes X7, who wanted to play aggressive on this top side pretty well, as Zaremba is just back into the mid lane. Another sidestep on the ground entrance, so Tempt with the very fancy feet in the mid lane.
Yeah, I'll choose to give it to Tempt, dodging it.
Bit of both, maybe.
And not Zaremba and Erixen.
I mean, that's without boots on, in fairness, so like that's actually really well done.
Yeah, exactly. So Zaremba now on his way down bot lane. He might get spotted right here. But I don't necessarily think between the two there is enough damage, especially when there is W available for the Rakan to get away from
maybe that's
any sticky situations, right? So again, I was thinking that this game, in the early game, might be a little bit of a red than sleeper because, of course, we're looking for Vi to get level 6, Ari to get level 6. We're looking for the same for Erixen, Sylas, and the Wukong. The more C you have, the more follow-up you have. That's when you usually want to pull the trigger to get some dives going, to get some skirmishes going. All in all, it's going to be a pretty even game. If anything, Viking is actually 1 camp ahead from Krayox. But, of course, let's reiterate, this Wukong has been nerfed clear-wise. His E, which is the AoE that hits minions, was nerfed around 40%, I want to say.
Pretty heavy. I remember you saying it's about 6 to 8 seconds on the full clear. But again, Krayox didn't go for the full clear, in fairness. He decided against that. So there are some ways around it. The fact if you decide to say, look, I'm just going to gank a little bit more and not go to be pure efficiency in the clear, then maybe you can start doing things like this as Krayox decides, I'm just going to go and use my Warrior Trickster to double team this Cloud Dragon, get Zaremba to come over and assist as well.
That's pretty good. You have bot lane prior, which means that Merbs and Zaremba will be the first ones in the river, which means that you're allowed to actually walk inside this Dragon Pit. Now, the problem is, X7 have pushed mid, they've pushed bot, and they can actually wrap around. Krayox doesn't do this fast and actually W out of the pit.
My days just about in, but now there's some danger on the other side as Kasing takes a fair chunk. Krayox clone does get some damage down, that's about it, and Viking will step away. Tempt
level 6.
Going to head forwards. Flash for the charm, misses it, but Krayox flashes to turn and just dies. Tempt with the solo kill.
Yep, solo bolo, I guess, is the way Koreans do it in this league that we're playing in.
Tempt and Eminence, man.
Yep. So Tempt did the Eminence? Is that what we call it now?
A Temptiness? an Emin Tempt?
Attemptiness. An attempt.
It just sounds like tetanus, and he needs to go get like a vaccine or a jab because like his cat scratched him or something. I apologise for that horrific portmanteau, and we'll move on from that.
It's 5th game of the day.
Yeah, wait. The hysteria hit sits in, and this is where you end up. You get initialized in trouble, and this is largely where it devolves to eventually.
Yep. It's like, you know, when you're really tired and you're like absolutely destroyed. You haven't slept in like, I don't know, many hours.
Unfortunately, I do know that, yes.
You've worked really hard, but like the second you hit the bed, you're like hyperactive all of a sudden.
Overtired.
That's literally me. Yeah. I can literally sit on the bed and start singing or whatever, or dancing.
Why? Why would you just sit down in your bed and dance?
I don't know. When I'm on the verge of falling down and falling asleep, my energy just radiates.
I'm aware this is a tangent in general, but like, I don't think I've ever met someone who's gone, you know, I'm so overtired I can't sleep, you know what I'm going to do? Dance in my bed.
I'm hyperactive.
That does fit my kind of image of you, but I hadn't really associated that with you. Yeah. Georgia, generally speaking.
Now if I send you a message at night, I'm like, frick. I'm like so tired, I can't sleep. You can just imagine
Just
that.
get some, feel the need to samba. That's it. Just go for it. Well, the more you know. Good fact to know about
we
you.
have some pets?
All right, let's see what we've got.
Oh,
Beautiful fluffy green from Maple. A very pretty looking dog indeed.
just
Look at that.
protecting.
Oh,
Just protecting all the wood.
indeed.
Like the Zaremba is trying to protect his
Control wood.
jungle. It's Kasinks.
Because dogs are... you're right, and I wasn't paying enough attention.
That's fine.
I was
That's
too
fine.
busy looking at the dog. What a great dog. Thank you for that. Continue to share those pictures with us at hashtag NLC Pets. They don't all have to be dogs. Dogs are wonderful, but so are many other animals. So do go and show us what you have, because we love to see and celebrate them. And it's a nice change of pace.
Talking about change of pace.
Indeed.
Level 6 onto
Tempt.
Creox. Oh, Zaremba's walking into very dangerous territory. You get
Ooh.
hit by a taunt. You could be engaged upon. Now Drimple is just about to hit Meganar. They've gotten everyone towards the top side of the map, both teams, except their AD carries. Now Attila is going to start moving towards the mid lane, and a lot of teams will choose to leave their AD carry down bot lane, shoving the wave. This time it's going to be both Attila and Merb staying there. Erixen is going to dodge.
But the difference, of course, is Ezreal can affect things from a long way away with his use of the True Shot Baroches. Erixen takes a hefty trade from Tempt, who landed a great charm. Kasing
Which
trying to zone Creox out.
has already been used.
Oh,
Just when
Cyclone
it's
comes
in
through.
enough.
Cyclone gets a 3-man grand entrance into a second Cyclone, but I don't know if they've actually got the damage. Voidrix had to be used to try and stay alive. Tempt gets the charm. Meganar is nowhere near, and Dreampool having to run away as he is pulled towards the long sleep and long dream of death. Thus far staying alive, but Tempt being an absolute terror on the Ahri right now. They'll secure the Herald and force Vanir away.
Yeah, I think this was not Vanir's fight to take. Erixen was shut down from the earlier skirmish with Tempt. Then Dreampool goes top lane to push in the wave, loses his Meganar. Then they go back into fight. Creox is getting caught between so many members from X7. And that was just not Vanir's fight to take. Unfortunately for them, the Rift Herald is going to go towards X7
I
though.
mean, you've got Cyclone 1 into 3-man grand entrance into Cyclone 2. I thought, surely that's enough CC damage. Surely that's going to punish
Well,
X7.
that's enough to see. What a damage.
You may have a point there, Trouble.
Your damage is scaling down the
Yes,
bot lane.
your damage was being pushed in mid lane and the Silas and not there because Merb was on the bot lane. Oh no. Cancelled back there because Attila throws out another True Shot Barrage, but Merbs, with the Cull, kind of knows his role here, which is get as much gold to myself while playing without too much attention.
And I also want to reiterate the fact that when X7 were not doing that well, it was Attila on the Ezreal. And don't get me wrong, he's infamous for his Ezreal. He's one of his best champions alongside the Draven, which both have completely different playstyles. But
Very true.
he's very famous for his Ezreal, and he's very famous for his Draven. Now, when X7 resorted back to the Ezreal at the very beginning of the split, it just was not going very well for them. And then that's when they transitioned to the Senna, and then slowly to the Draven, the more early game favored champ. Now, the way Attila has been using his True Barrage, this is where I wanted to end, is in a lot of ways the way we saw Jinx use a Super Mega Death Rocket
yeah.
to stop people from backing, meaning that you get tempo advantage on the map. The fact that Merbs couldn't back there means that he has to stay for another wave, means that he doesn't have his items, means that he can't shove quickly enough, means that he can't walk into river. What does that give? That gives X7 the freedom to move into that river and take the dragon because Merbs didn't back in time to get items. So things like True Barrage and things like Super Mega Death Rocket are just so important to stopping backs to win your team macro when you're that quick at pulling the trigger to moving around the map like X7 is. And especially for Ezreal, whose ultimate pretty much recharges every time he hits a Q, is just much faster to use.
Indeed it is, but Vanir maybe looking to punish chasing this top side. He's getting slowed down, realizes he's in for a world of hurt and just decides I need to get some of these minions because there's no way I'm getting out of here. It falls down to Creox.
Yeah, and look at the bot side of the map. Zaremba and Merbs are completely... Merbs is completely respecting the fact that he knows his entire team is towards the top quadrant of their jungle. So most likely what's going to happen, he's most likely going to be getting dived. So it's pretty good stuff from X7. They're depriving him off of a gold and
Herald as well.
experience. They're going to pop the Rift towards the bot side of the map, get some more gold into Attila's Ezreal, possibly
Full
take
turret,
him around the
actually.
map.
wow, they're going to get so much out of this. I think it is going to be the full turret. So, yes, you get the kill onto Chasey, but he did manage to clear a lot of that wave to prevent a completely easy shove. And instead, full 5 plates go into Attila's Ezreal, who running that first strike as well, feeling very happy with that influx of gold going his way.
Yeah, I think he should have close to his mana Muna as well. Yeah, he's very close. And top side of the map, though, Dreampool did manage to get 2 turret platings on the Na on his own, and this time you can actually swap your Na towards the bot side of the map, and because there is no dragon spawning for another 3 minutes, you know that you're going to be relatively safe playing towards that bot side of the map. Saying that, though, the fact that your Xayah is going to be playing yet again away from the dragon, away from the neutral objective that your team wants to potentially fight for, is going to significantly hurt Vanir's 4 versus 4 team fights.
That it is, and we're left with a game where X7 have the early game lead, have managed to get some of their kind of early win conditions down and available. Of course, as you mentioned, Attila's Ezreal, that infamous character for him, doing in a very good position to carry, despite, of course, some slightly less than stellar games towards the beginning of the split on the champ. But right now, in a very strong position to carry. Chasey died just the once, but of course had to burn the flash early on, and maybe in the recipient of this lane swap now as well, being forced away from this tower potentially.
Yeah, and you'll see, we mentioned how when you take bot tower, that means you unleash your carry from that lane, which means you can take them around and be a complete nuisance. Now, of course, with Attila being on almost 2 items, when, if you look on the side of Vanir, only Kraox has finished his mythic, is pretty huge. You take that Ezreal, you put down the poke, you force people either off of waves or off of towers, you bleed your vision in, and look, this is exactly how they're using the Ezreal. Oh!
Just misses.
So close right there to actually cancelling the back from Zaremba, which again slows down your tempo if you do manage to get the cancel.
Oh, Mervs just get hit by the charm into the Everfrost. It'll be a fairly decent chunk here. Remember, Temp's running the Ignite as well, so it can definitely be pretty damn aggressive if he would so wish, but decides against it. Mervs did just proc the Cull as well about half a minute ago as well, so likely pretty close to a mythic of his own if Tempt doesn't go for the interrupt. May think about it, throws down the Foxfire, does interrupt as well, trying to delay.
Mervs is like, guys, please.
Yeah, this mythic completion for as long as they can actually leaves Tempt with a bit more room to get a shove in onto this top lane tier 1, and Vikings over here may make Kraox's life a bit difficult as the rest of X7 rotate as well.
Yeah, and what did this mean? This meant that Kraox has to stay over the top side to try and defend this lane. They know Mervs is not there, there's no mythic.
Teleport.
You know that Kraox cannot defend this alone, so they have
so
to put teleports.
Kraox does burn the ultimate, and Tempt decides to burn his in trade as well, but the teleport had to be burned there, and X7 are forced away, but as he said, came at a fairly significant cost.
And again, it comes off of Tempt interrupting Mervs. Mervs would come back with a mythic item much sooner on the map. He would have probably been towards the top side of the map. He would have probably been in that mid lane tier 1 to try and stop that Siege from going down. So twice now, Attila stopping Mervs on the bot lane and Tempt stopping Mervs on the top side of the map, when that Xayah is your most significant damage and constant damage that you have in team, has been so insane for X7's macro.
Somewhere out there, Jeff Goldblum is nodding his head, talking about the butterfly effect. You stop her back in the top side, you burn a teleport to try and defend that top side tower, you get to rotate down towards the mid lane with that teleport down and take that turret instead. Get yourself pressure in mid lane to set up for this dragon. It's a lovely sequence of plays.
And more importantly, I think Ari can also be used as a zoning tool, so doesn't necessarily need her ult, but Kraox not having his ult for this fight is going to be massive because she's the one engaged in the fights.
A lot of ults available elsewhere. Vikings in particular is one to keep your eyes on, alongside, of course, things like the Devour as well, make getting a pick onto X7 pretty tricky. But what can someone like Zaremba do as well? Of course, he's got his own engaged tools, and the Dragon started up as Tempt steps away briefly to clear out the mid lane wave, and Kraox takes a vast chunk of damage, because, of course, Chasey and Attila have got a bit of a range advantage here.
Oh, what's Tempt though? He's on the flank, he has the ultimate, he can ult through the wall and catch somebody off guard.
Not seen anybody.
Oh, he can cancel Mervs again.
Oh no, just like poor old Mervs, like why? Why has my life become this? And somewhere out there, Nymera in the green room, I'm sure is nodding away going, yes, this is how you be as obnoxious an Ahri as possible. Has gone towards Everfrost into the Oblivion Orb though, so very much a utility build though.
Putrifier.
If Tempt builds Putrifier, I will send a strongly worded message on Twitter to say what the hell is going on, because Putrifier cannot be procced by Ahri. It doesn't work. But Kraox and Dreampool have actually found the flank onto Kasing and Attila, who are about to find 5 members behind them in a very deadly position. Attila goes over the wall, but Merv's about to try and find that Ezreal, who gets charmed up and surely goes down. A very nicely set up bait and kill.
Very well done, and if you look on the top side of the map, the wave was already pushed in. The only thing that Vanir is missing right now is one wave shoved in the mid lane, which was by Chasey. Really nice catch right there. Mebs was flanking. He finds finally Attila, who's been cancelling him time after time with the Trusa barrage, gets his revenge right there. Erixen is also going to tip it over the top side of the map to not lose any gold or experience. He needs to be very careful, of course, because Viking is around, and a dive could be potentially something that's in the books for the side of X7. But that was a really nice, proactive play yet again from Vanir.
And we've seen this from Attila and Kasing. They have been very disrespectful of people being in those bushes. When they've been on Ezreal and Tahm Kench, when they were dying a little bit, unfortunately, in the first few times we saw them bring that duo out this split, it was walking up at level 3 past those bushes and getting jumped on. It was overextending here as well that got them punished and got a bit more gold into the back pockets of Vanir, who were starting to fall away from the game. Of course, Attila now at 2 items. That one death isn't going to disturb him too much. He didn't burn the flash, so it's just the kill goat that goes over, but even so, it's not what you want to see.
Yeah, and if you look at the composition that X7 are running in general, it's more of a poke composition.
Yeah.
You poke with the Ezreal, you poke with the Jace, you either make sure that somebody's so low that they can't join the fight, or they go low enough for potentially a Vi to jump in together with the Ahri and assassinate them and clean up the fight, play with one number advantage on the map. But if you look right here, X7 are going to prioritize getting that second Rift Herald, whilst Vanir actually shoving in the lanes. Bot lane from Dreampool, mid lane by Merbs, and top lane by Erixen. Erixen here needs to be extremely careful. He has no teammates around, and he knows that the majority of X7 members are on the top side of the map.
Got himself the hijacked Spirit Rush, which of course will give him a little bit more safety than he might otherwise normally have. But Erixen had the easiest time this game, been relatively quiet thus far, all things said and done, and a player that was some doubts about. He was, of course, on the Verdant roster that went down into Division 3. Up now against Tempt, who was of LCK caliber once upon a time. And not a matchup that perhaps one might have been expecting a couple years ago. But here it is in the NLC regardless. Does lose that bot lane tier 2 with the second Herald charge coming through from X7, who do continue to remain fairly heavily in control of the map.
I think that was a pretty good trade, though, from Vanir, regarding the fact that they actually lost that Rift Herald and there's a tower that went down. Dreampool actually equalized the towers. He took bot lane tier 1, so there was a 1-for-1 trade. And even though, yes, they are about 2.1, 2.2k gold behind, they still have the Zarya that can come in clutch in the later stages. And again, playing a poke composition for X7, that means your skill shots need to hit. Might I remind you, Ahri is a skill shot champion as well. Your taunt needs to hit, your Q needs to hit. So if you do manage to miss this, and mind you, Nari's pretty slippery, Wukong's pretty slippery, Rakan is pretty slippery, and so is Erixen on that Sylas. I'm not even going to mention the Zarya with the ultimate. Making sure you can maneuver around these abilities and engage in makes these poke champions very squishy.
There's got to be some commentary on the fact that Ahri's charm is a skill shot, about shooting your shot when you've got the chance when it comes to love and stuff, that. There's got to be some commentary there. There's be like some thesis in that.
If anything, you know what? I would have expected Namer to have already made that.
I'm surprised he hasn't.
I'm very disappointed now.
Alex,
Yeah.
set it up.
Yeah.
I need you to write a thesis on the fact that Ahri's charm is a skill shot and what that commentary is from Riot Games and the wider Ahri playing community. There you go. I don't know where to go from that.
We scolded him.
All right, well, 35 seconds until an Infernal Drake number 2, which will be soul point for X7 if they can secure it. And a poke comp with Infernal Soul is just brutal.
Ouch.
So I think we might be watching Vanir try and stop them, but I don't know how easy it's going to be when control of their red side jungle is firmly in X7's control right now.
The most difficult thing is that you don't necessarily have lane power. So you see Erixen is manically trying to push down bot lane. Merbs is left alone in the mid lane. He's getting poked by Attila, and Dreampool is not even there yet. Although when Dreampool does join, his rage bot is almost...
Remember, takes so much damage, but now I'm going to try and turn this one around. But actually, a massive use of the ultimate there. Cease and desist, prevented easy engagement Cryox, and the Rakan is dead to right. Tempt goes forward, has to try and flash away, still dies to Merbs. Cryox alive as well on the other side. Big knock into the wall from Dreampool, who's trying to stay alive. Over the wall goes Erixen, and they're beginning to turn it around. Vanir might actually be doing this. Merbs turns up to the fight. It's a double, of course, to Dreampool in general. The True Shot Barrage gets a kill, though, and that will make it a fairly even trade. A 3-for-2 in favor of Vanir. But importantly, Viking's alive and Cryox is nearly gone. I don't know how easy this would be to play.
Oh, but Erixen has teleport. He can go back. He can TP behind them. Look at that ward in the mid lane. He's actually coming in. He has his fast available. Attila has just used his E. He can actually be chased down.
They'll try and make it happen. Attila going towards the blast cone, but will get caught out by the abscond and then into the abduct. Uses the blast cone to get out. And he's got a second one. He gets out alive.
Wow, they literally got away with murder. They take the dragon. They
Might not
get
be
out
done.
alive, both
Viking.
of them. And I have... Oh my god.
The blast
Oh
cone
my
uses it, but
God.
what about the absconded duck? Doesn't need to use it. The Q will get him out to safety.
I have no freaking clue what business Vanir have winning this fight. Yet again, you will see Zaremba is in a very weird position. Cryox goes in all alone, by the way. Zaremba goes in and gets instantly blown up. So the Wukong and the Rakan have been non-factors here. Dreampool is 1 HP, but this Mega now that he gets right here onto 2 members, stuck up onto all of these feathers from Merbs. You see how the Zaya slowly but surely starts coming online. You see members for long enough, the feathers are going to do damage. I feel like this was a fight that Vanir had no business whatsoever winning because they were so miscoordinated and so split apart. Imagine a world where all the CC lands at the same time with Merbs there to do damage.
Yeah, and honestly, Temp was inches away from getting a couple kills there, but Merbs and Cryox using their Qs managed to get some things done as Dreampool is in a bit of spotter, but actually Zaremba's come over to try and save this one as Kasing and the rest of X7 actually here. They're looking for some vengeance after that dragon fight. They did get the Infernal Soul point as well, so they're in a very commanding position as Dreampool is pulled back with the charm and goes straight down.
Again, overreaching by Vanir. They're overextending and instantly get punished by X7.
Here we go.
And don't be fooled, this is not a bloodthirsty game. It's just teams overextending and getting picked apart one by one. Now, this is going to be a very difficult fight to actually walk into for Vanir because this Baron is almost gone.
And they've got, like, no summoners to work with as well. Zaremba gets charmed as he tries to go in. Temp stays away from the Everfrost. And over the wall, an accelerated shock blast deletes Rakan. Birds of a feather will die together, apparently, as Merbs has to back out of there as well. Erixen uses the Spirit Rush to get out of dodge, but that will be a Baron taken by X7 and a kill on top of that as well.
Add insult to injury. Jason just walks in, auto-attacks the blue buff once and takes this away as well. So, no rest right there for Vanir. Really good stuff from X7. They managed to get 1 pick and then transition that into the Baron. And they're using their Ezreal and the Jace so well. And again, we said, it doesn't matter if the Shock Blast is going to kill somebody. The role of Chasey and Attila is to get people low enough to the point where they just cannot walk through a choke point because then Vi is going to be there and Ari is going to be there and they're going to be executed. So you're just pushing people's HP bars and shoving them further back towards their fountain unless they want to die and actually go to their fountain.
2 minutes of Baron left to go, and that will time up pretty conveniently with the spawning of the Infernal Drake, which could well be X7's soul to claim. Vanir not going to have a very easy time of getting control of the map to think about contesting, and Dreampool is using this opportunity to try and get some more pressure on a side lane and will secure at least that top lane tier 1, but all the while X7 get onto this bot lane tier 2, and that will disappear in a few moments.
Yeah, they have 2 lanes pressure, mid lane pushed by Chasey, 4-man stacked unit from X7 on the bot side of the map. They don't have a very big wave, but the problem for Vanir is they only have Merbs, and Zaya's range is not the largest, and also you have Sylas, who's a melee. He cannot necessarily walk into the wave because he's going to get chunked down by Chasey's Jace and by Attila's Ezreal. So right here, again, 2-lane siege coming in from X7. Vanir have to choose what to defend.
Just flash in, and they're going to try and make something happen with the Nimbus Strike. It's a big man of knock-ups, and down goes Attila, who had no way out there. Merbs goes up into the sky with the Feather Storm to stop Viking from getting in on top of him, and he's going to fall as well. Now they need to try and run away as fast as they can as Tempt, maybe looking for someone over the wall. But Zaremba would be the only option. Kasing gets to get over with the Blast Cone. Charm goes wide, and Tempt now being spotted out, but does have Flash, and of course the Spirit Rush to get out. And when they needed to, a flash in from Cryox secures Attila's Ezreal. Oh my days.
And we mentioned how Vanir need to pick their fight when 2 lanes are being pushed. Usually what you want to do is before your inhibitor tower drops, you need to choose a fight on the 2 lanes that are being pushed. Where do you want to fight? Who do you want to pick off? and Kraox decided it's going to be the bot lane, it's going to be the 4-man stack. 7 out of 8 kill participation for Kraox. Mostly everything that's been made possible kills-wise has started from the Vanir jungler on that Wukong. This is why we mentioned how important it is to have that ultimate. Talking about ultimates, talking about importance, Wukong ult not up, 10 seconds for Dragon Soul.
No flash either for Kraox. He burnt it to get Attila, but unfortunately X7 have respawned in time to be in position to at least contest. Everyone's around. True Shot Barrage just clips Erixen, but no one else. And we've got ourselves a mighty fight to go down here as Dreampool nearly the Mega on a flank here potentially as well, looking to find his way into the backline of X7. Erixen steals the Spirit Rush, looking to find another way in potentially. Dreampool now spotted out. They'll know where he is. The Dragon's alive, but no one has started it quite yet.
Yeah, and this is a problem for Vanir, the fact that it hasn't started yet, because it gives time for Ezreal and Jace to poke you down low enough that the Ari can actually run and assassinate you. Zaremba though!
The Devour will keep Kasing, Attila alive, but Viking will go down, but it's a 1-for-1 trade as Zaremba is also traded, but the jungler being dead is such a big deal. Chasey having to try and flash out as Merbs' Zaya secures another, but all the while Tempt on the other side to get the top lane. Erixen so desperately low, but so is Merbs as well. A final Spirit Fire will do that one. I apologize, a Foxfire is what it's really called. True Shot Barrage. Gale forced away from a small breath of wind away from falling. He'll get out alive, but Kraox over the wall, about to go to back away, but is he? Kasing continue to hunt down all the while. That Infernal Drake is still alive. And X7 are going to try and keep the jungler as far away from it as they can while they let Ezreal take it away.
Yeah, Attila can just jump into the pit and start taking the dragon down. And you mentioned when you have a poke comp and you get Infernal Soul, suddenly your Qs from Ezreal and Jace become Infernum shots from Aphelios.
Kasing is 2 levels down and is winning this 1v1. The Kench is unbenched. Viking's been unbenched as well. And suddenly they just get kills onto the Wukong.
This should not be the case.
No.
Just saying. But again, we're watching this fight. You see how they're catching Attila. Kasing eats him and puts him away. But the second Zaremba tries to go in, Viking stops him. Because if Zaremba gets a multi-man taunt, the Dreampool gets to walk in and get the ult. And the Kraox gets to walk in, and the same for Erixen. But the fact that Viking stopped Zaremba dead in his tracks, it doesn't matter if he trades his life, because he has saved his team from multi-CC.
Merbs, Erixen, and I believe Dreampool also all tried to flash to kill Chasey, and they finally get him, but they burnt so much to get on top of the Jace that everyone else kind of died while it happened. And now you're in a position where you've lost the Infernal Soul, you burnt a lot to try and stop that one, and yes, you managed to get a couple kills. Hell, you're ahead in the kills. The problem is that you're still coming out of these fights with desperately low health bars and no easy way to take control of this map.
And I just want to reiterate how important this match is. Vanir and X7, one win away from each other. Vanir wins that, they equalize the score. They're big contenders to take the playoff spot away from X7. X7 who is the former champions, X7 who are quarter-finalists at EU Masters from Spring 2022. And they need to be solidifying themselves towards the top part of the standings, not scraping by to just make playoffs.
0-2 last week put them in a pretty difficult and precarious position, as you said. X7 do have the head-to-head currently against Vanir, but they lose this, and suddenly Vanir, it's a 1-1. The game score is tied. Things get significantly more dicey. Win this, and you give yourself a lot more breathing room between, of course, yourself, Vanir, and the teams below them. Kraox, though, trying to find a flank, has to burn the Cyclone. Zaremba taken so very low, but Kasing saves his top laner. It's a 1-for-1, though. Again, Viking is traded for Zaremba. But look at the side. Tempt trying to get into Merbs, who's going to go straight down. The stopwatch prevents the feathers getting pulled, but on the other side, 2 are dead as Dreampool gets 2. But Tempt trying to get another charm as the Mega wears out. Attila is still alive. Attila can run them all down. Tempt gets another reset. It's a triple for the LCK former mid laner. And Kraox is left to run away, the one remaining member of his team, and Attila with 2 levels above him will look to try and finish this one out, will clean up the clone, and that Infernal Soul will ensure that Kraox burns out.
Ace right there for X7, and mid and bot stay alive. 7, 1, and 3 for Tempt. And had it not been for his positioning in this fight, had it not been for Tempt stopping Dreampool for entering that wombo combo that Vanir were preparing on 4 members of X7, it could have ended up super bad for them. But Tempt comes out clutch together with Attila. They clean up the fight. And these are the 2 true carries for X7 coming in clutch in this one. And I think if we see this again, Look at Temp's positioning. Dreampool just sends Megana. He wants to find a way in. Triple man knockup for Krayox. 3-man taunt from Zaremba, but Dreampool was stopped from Temp from going in. And not only that, Temp also finds his target with his Merbs. So he stops the wombo combo on his team. He takes out enemy AD carry. Job done for the X7 mid laner.
And when you've still got your Ahri, when you've still got the Ezreal alive, and everyone else who's doing the damage is gone, it became very difficult for Vanir. They're down the Baron again. And now with 4.5 items in Attila's inventory and a similar number in Temp's, we're looking at a very difficult position for Vanir. And I'm not entirely sure how they're supposed to play it out from here if they want to even try and find a way back into this game.
You're gonna have to try and find a pick, but again, you don't have Erixen, he's towards the top side of the map. Dreampool cannot take this wave down, he has to get too close, he's gonna get poked out, they're gonna lose mid lane bot lane inhibitor, but they have to fight at some point. All of their ultimates are up, but Erixen is still topside.
Viking goes in, but it's only in onto the clone. They're going to try and teleport behind. Dreampool nearly at Mega, does get charmed out, which means he's not got the easiest. Oh my god! The damage that came through onto him was practically illegal. Someone go get their lawyer, because I am witnessing a murder live on my screen, and the weapon was Infernal Soul. 2 are dead already. They tried to pull the trigger and defend their base, but there was nothing to be done. It will be a swift demolition at the end of the game.
What Infernal Soul? That looked like Elder Dragon. He hit him twice with a Q and 1 auto attack, and that was it. The entire HP bar just went down. X7 bringing in Viking, winning on their first spot.
Lordy lords, the damage is increasingly nasty to witness. In they go onto the towers, they switch in Viking. X will mark the spot on this game, and X7 will move to X7 and 6.
Just a little bit more, though. They need to pad the numbers first. You know what?
A little bit of taying around.
0-2 week. They need to pad the numbers, and they actually deserve it. 8-1-4 for Temp, 7-2-4 for Attila. X7 will slowly but surely finish the game and move to 7 wins and 6 losses. Was it clean? Not necessarily.
Parts of it were.
Partially
Parts of it were. We saw some good macro stuff. There was some good play from Temp.
Did it look like the mid-jungle duo was more connected? I'd have to say yes. I feel like the fact that Viking found his target and it wasn't necessarily a carry, it was, I need to stop Zaremba from reaching my backline, even if I have to trade my HP, and then my team will do the rest. I think this X7 lineup showed a lot of trust for each other and how they moved around the map, and this is what matters.
Yeah, I mean, I'll give some credit over to Vanir as well, of course, because Merbs, dangerous on that Xayah once more. Krayox made the Wukong very, very effective, made some critical clutch plays to keep Vanir in that game, because there were some of those shoves on, say, the inhibitor turret earlier on, where he gets that flash engage onto Attila to kill him off. Hugely important. Alas, it wasn't quite enough, though, and they do lose this game, and that gulf between playoffs now increasingly difficult, because they are now 0-2 in the head-to-head. They're 2 games away from playoffs as well. That's a difficult position to be, but it does mean for myself and trouble. We're done for the day. Fortunately, Archeron, Don Jake, and of course Nymera are here to explain the rest of the day.
Thank you so much. Good job, by the way, an entire day for those 2 casting non-stop. And good job for X7 as well, coming in with Viking, bringing in the Viking. I mean, we got to give it props. We got to give it props. It kind of works. We have to do it.
Out of here, your puns have done too much damage.
It worked so well in the end, and it seemed like X7 built the entire draft to work towards Chasey. It didn't quite work out in the beginning, though.
It felt to me, and we said this very clearly in the draft, that it felt like X7 had a win condition through snowballing through topside. It is still quite concerning to me that they didn't manage to achieve that. It did feel like a little bit like they tried to go towards topside. Chasey was pushing in, and they got caught out a couple of times, trading flashes down, losing a couple of kills up there now and then. And credit to them for not like losing super hard once it started falling away from them, because it's actually flipping in both ways, right? You start losing those matchups, it starts going a bit wrong, and I think through some individual play that ended up getting rectified. But the fact that they couldn't play to this win condition still concerns me a little bit if X7 want to push higher up the table.
Yeah,
eventually, yeah, it worked for the bot.
Well, just sort of cut you off there, but two big things for me. So I just want to carry on what you're saying. I think obviously still some improvements to go to get back to that start of form, but some definite vital signs of improvement for me in terms of, I think, around their setups. I think crucially a lot of members would be getting caught out around these setups, and it would mean there's a lack of cohesion there, and I think that would ultimately cost a lot of tempo. To me, X7 today were a team that once they got control of the game in the last 10 to 15 minutes or so, they didn't really take their foot off the gas, so to speak. And I think that's an important remembrance of what this team used to be in the last split, and hopefully a return to form.
That's a play style from Viking. You don't take the foot out away of the gas. You just want to keep making the enemy team choke and choke and choke. That's why we have the pleasure to finally welcome him back on the interviews as well. Viking, I'm kind of afraid to look. Okay, he's chill today. How are you doing, Viking? Welcome back.
Thank you. I'm doing good. What about you?
I'm doing really, really good, man. Nice to see you back and bringing in the Vi to start off this adventure on Summer Split. So why the Vi? Just tell me that.
Coach wanted it, so I was fine with it. But what's called? I mean, yeah, Vi for Viking as well, Viking. But yeah, it was only because of the name. It was the coach logic.
It makes sense, I guess. Makes sense.
No.
So, okay, some synergy in the name stuff there, but obviously you're coming in midway through a split to a very high, I guess,
volatile situation.
It's a volatile situation in a lot of ways, but it's also a lot of prestige in this roster. What's it been like slotting into a team which has such high expectations? Have you felt that burden you at all? What's the entrance to X7 been like?
I mean, like, for example, in my off-season, I got offer from most teams in NLC, and there was no project that I really liked. And I had like dozens of offers from other things, but there was no project that I really liked. And then I now got this offer, and I was like, I love these two Koreans. Like, these are really smurfing, and I like sing, and I want to see how Attila is as well, and I am really happy. So this is like a project that I wanted, So it's not really burden, because my laners are smurfing in scrims, so I'm happy.
Okay, good to know that things are working better now, at least for the rest of the roster. One question I do have in mind is, when I talked to you in the previous split, you are a vocal player. You know what you want inside of the game. You have a good macro awareness. Are you shot calling for this team right now, or is it too early, or is there another shot caller for the team? Because I know you're vocal.
Yeah, I mean, I have a big voice in the team. It's one of the reasons why they wanted me, and I say what I want to do, and I ask a lot of questions that makes the Koreans speak more. And yeah, I mean, I think that I like the team. I have no problem with the team in the scrims that we have had. We had decent results, and I like first scrim, I was mind blown what my top laner was doing to enemy top, and Tempt had perma prio, and I think this game he had most of the time prio too, and he played amazing. I told him after the game, best mid I ever play with, I love you, But what's called, they're really fun to play with and stuff.
Last time I heard you talking like this, it was towards FGG, which is a really powerful player. So this is speaking really highly for X7. My question to you is, looking into the Flames, you guys are at the bottom of the ladder for the playoffs. Are you even the slightest worried about getting into playoffs? You have full trust in the entire team.
Yeah, I mean, I think that I complement this. I mean, what's called, I make this team function a lot, and the coach is really happy with me, and yeah, I mean, I'm really happy to be here, and it has been going good. And today it was a bit weird comp. I don't what's called. I think I don't like to play poke, because my only job was to yeah, I'm gonna try to hold off Rakan. I should have played a bit better, but I don't like this job that I had this game.
Okay, but at least you got the win nonetheless, and it's a good return for you for the NLC. You bring it with the double to start it off. Thank you so much for this interview. It's a pleasure to talk with you again. You know that, and I'll see you soon, I hope.
Yeah, of course, in a winning interview.
I know it. I know it. See you soon, man. Have a nice one.
Bye. Thank you.
For those of you who don't know, Viking doesn't like losing interviews.
I mean, it's okay to be fired up about your games and, to have those emotional responses to victories and losses. I mean, I think it's kind of natural to some extent in a competitor. I love, just quickly going back to something you mentioned in terms of shouting out Tempt, who's saying, he had prior most of this game, X, Y, Z. I think Tempt had a really good game. He was completely handicapped by one of the most cursed Ari builds I've ever seen.
And he still popped.
Still finished 8-1 and 6, but I'm sat there like, I was many emotions happened to me. My emotional response isn't to actually winning or losing a game, it's to seeing what items my main champion is building.
I think the biggest takeaway from that whole interview is that Troublelink can be an NLC coach whenever she wants. Because she said Viking, and then Viking Anton just said it immediately.
Same wavelength.
Nia said that was the thought process, Viking. So Troublelink also thought that. So Troublelink, you want to come and be an NLC coach anytime.
I mean,
career change.
From the way we've seen her do champion select, she could be a coach.
Got the binoculars up.
I'm just saying that. Now on to Vanir, the team that lost. We're going to talk with Erixen to understand a little bit more about what happened. This was a tough game for you guys, but really important run, right?
Sorry, what was the question?
Welcome back. And this was a really important game for you guys. And this is a hard defeat for you now.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I think the way that the game went, I'm really frustrated with how we played, because I think it was like really winnable throughout the whole game, and I just think we needed to play better, that's all.
Okay,
And
what
I'm kind
tipped
of
the
disappointed.
scales towards X7? If you think it was only one moment, what do you believe was the thing that tipped the scales towards X7?
I mean, I think there was a few things, like the Herald, for example. Like we didn't really play around that fact, but also I think just it came down to the teamfight executions where we didn't execute our comp well enough. Like I think it was just too hard for us today, I guess, because we should definitely be stronger in the fights where we don't get poked and we get the right engages. We were not playing well enough as a team today to make it happen. So yeah, it just sucks.
One final question for you. I'm going to look into the dark side, I would say, of this subject. You're now 2 victories behind the lowest team, or the lowest score team for playoffs. This is going to be a tough run for you guys. But of all the 6 top teams, which team do you believe you can still take it away?
I mean, I think we can take down Bifrost. I think they are going through a rough time as well. And I also think Dust is very beatable. So I think those are the teams we're looking to beat. But I mean, we're obviously looking to beat all the teams so I can make playoffs. But I think those are like the most, I guess, easier teams to beat, So yeah.
Okay. Interesting. Let's see what happens throughout the rest of the split. We're cutting close on playoffs. Thank you so much for this interview. It's always a pleasure, and I'll see you soon. Good luck.
All right. See you guys.
They're still looking for the playoffs. They're looking.
The double wave.
It's a double.
I like that.
Compensating all the other players that don't wave. Someone has to do it.
Impolite.
And I like the idea that, okay, if we're not able to take down X7, might as well look into the teams that realistically we can take them down. Bifrost seems to be on the list.
Oh, for sure. They're a very inconsistent team right now. I think, when they are on their own game, they are looking towards that top spot. I think genuinely they could, again, do a miracle run towards the last part of that split, end up towards higher ranks, and then push through those playoffs. But on a similar thing, if they get on a bad day, actually they're starting to struggle against even some of our non-playoff teams have gone close versus Bifrost too. I mean, the M&M game versus Bifrost went massively long distance. It had to go to late game team fights. We know Bifrost love to give us some heart attacks every now and then. We thought we'd gotten rid of that for a little while, but they're still in that kind of bracket where, yeah, a team like Vanir potentially could look to sneak a couple of wins here and there, and again, close that gap with now, sadly, the X7 team, which is now ahead of them.
Totally agree. And if we're looking into these top 6 teams, for you, Jake, as well, who do you believe can just slip on the banana peel and go?
God, who can slip on the banana peel? Again, I think X7 are always going to be volatile due to the nature of just the way that we see things happen. I think it's a team where when it goes well, it's going to go really well. I think if things start to slip, you start to see more and more of those problems crop up. I feel like it's always the case that when you get a player in and you have that honeymoon period, it's a band-aid fix some of the time, and you're kind of removing some of the wounds that exist. But those wounds go deep, I feel like, when you are losing for so long. And they've got to keep winning. They've got to keep the momentum up. I feel like a team like Astralis as well have looked good at times and then bad at times as well. I think they were in that 3rd to 4th spot as well, but could easily drop a few games. I mean, it's a thing. We're so close to the end of the season. You do an 0-2 week, and suddenly your chances and fortunes are in a completely different spot.
You know, so this might seem a little bit like open-ended and we're not being decisive about this team is definitely missing playoffs because it's not an easy question to answer. We have, I think, a really good resource to use on this is the losers interview from Torok, the one loss that JDXL had against X7, where Torok was saying, actually, you know, and it was actually one of the winners' interviews after that point too, where he was saying effectively, no team in the NLC is free of making mistakes. We're all bad teams if you're kind of viewing that as your metric, and a lot of teams can capitalize on that. I mean, we talked about M&M and Nariki being able to be better than their scoreline and have close games against top teams. Genuinely, we're in a position where you give it one bad week and someone is looking like they are out of playoffs.
We don't have this problem in the LFL, by the way.
Might as well show the standings of where we finished
just have
day
broadcasters
13 at the Northern League of Legends Championship, the Kings of the North. JDXL 12-1, Riddle in second place with 10. But if you look into the bottom of the play for the run of playoffs, Bifrost is actually the team to take down now. Even though Vanir is the closest one, they still need a good week to look into Bifrost.
I mean, the gap is now more open than it was at the start of today because now we have that 2-game buffer, whereas X7 were, of course, on that 6-6, and you think, well, yeah, maybe Vanir can start climbing that ladder. It is getting to that point still, though, where just one bad week seals the doom of one team. The question is now really, for me, actually, the interesting question is, I think any of these teams kind of below Riddle, maybe Dusty is slightly free of it too. I think it's Astralis, X7, Bifrost. One of them can have a bad week. I think one of them definitely could go 0-2 in one of our remaining ones. The question is, who in these, in terms of Vanir, Nariki, and M&M, obviously Singularity a little bit beyond that now because they'd have to climb up to 7 wins, which is now obviously impossible for them. But I look at these other teams, who is going to actually pick up the slack there? I think these teams can slip up, so who can climb now?
We have five days of games remaining, and if you look into the table, I mean, things are solidifying. We see teams that are already on playoffs, obviously, and other teams, I don't know, it's going to be a rough race, I would say. What is your final take for this one?
For me, this is the kind of the final weeks. Who's got your stones? Who's got your gonads? Who's got the real balls to go the distance? Who are your big game players that are going to turn up and who's going to shark off into
Quick, who plays Syndra?
No, that's not where we were going with that. I was talking more about...
I know what you're talking about, buddy.
You know.
It is rough. It is rough. It is really rough to be an NLC host. As we're looking into the play of the day by MasterCard, that play that an axe has something to say. Oh, you know it.
Yeah, this was, this was the kind of game where you thought that Singularity were once again showing those signs of hope, but Nariki just found that way into that first team fight.
Yeah, absolutely. I bet a lot of people would have thought we were referring to Drave when we said that axe. No, it's Banderas who's wielding that. Absolutely cleaving through his enemies. There, the shining prospect of Noxus, delivering his Imperial might.
Yeah, Banderas had some rough side lane moments, got into those team fights though, really started to impress, and Nariki managed to avoid that. I mean, we talked about banana peels, right, and slipping up, avoiding that one of Singularity right at the bottom of the table, who brought them close to the line.
There was one of the posts from the social media clash, which was, who's going to be defeated by Singularity? That is the real question so far in this play. It's not about who wins it, it's about who loses versus Singularity. Let's see if it happens by the end of the split. So that's why we're going to show you the schedule for the next day. Day 14, we'll start off with Team Singularity versus Bifrost. X7 will take on Riddle Esports. This is a good one. Vanir told us that they can look into the top side and defeat Dusty and Bifrost. Is this a reality? Let's look into it. JDXL will then face off Nariki, and then M&M Gaming versus Astralis. I think this is one of the last shots for M&M Gaming.
Oh, very much so. I think that a couple of these games are looking a little bit one-sided on paper. Obviously, Bifrost, even in their inconsistent state, Singularity would be probably struggling against them. I mean, wouldn't it be great to see if that could happen for Singularity, though? Of course, they went
Singularity wins that one, it's chaos.
And it also mirrors what they did in spring. They went 0-13, lost playoffs, even with like any miracle run scenario. And then they picked up a couple of wins through that spring split. Bifrost, they are inconsistent. Maybe there's something there. But yeah, I think there are a number of games which are a little bit one-sided, but of course, all of them have huge implications now.
What about you? Pick your game.
God, let's have a think here. I mean, my brain tells me X7 versus Riddle, but my heart tells me 5 games clear. 4 games away. Eminem, can you do it against Astralis? Please show some signs of life. I feel like my dog has died on the ground. I just want him to show some signs of life.
What? Hey, last words from you, Nightmare.
Well, I mean, I think that, you know, I'm looking at game 3 as well. I mean, Vanir, we just heard Erixen saying, oh, you know, Dusty a beatable. I'd like to see him stand up to that again. Like, there are only so many times you can start hammering on it, like, oh, Vanir, Eminem, and Ricky, better than their game score suggests. Let's see them actually take those wins now.
No, we're racing towards the end of the split. It's day 13. Next will be on Wednesday, and I expect all of you back at home to be here with us. By the end of it, keep climbing the mountain. Have fun. I'll see you soon.
Congratulations on your first day at Div 1, Donjay.
Thank you so much. It's been lovely having all of you. Having all of you?
Yeah, that's
lovely being here.
You're native, by the way. You're native.